lectures. Our first keynote speaker this morning is Associate Professor Alina Bianca Andreica from Romania. Associate Professor Alina Bianca Andreica is a faculty member in Computer Science at the Faculty of European Studies, Babeș-Bolyai University. Her research focuses on artificial intelligence ethics, AI regulations, digital transformation, and information systems integration. She previously served as head of ICT department at her university and has conducted extensive international research on global AI regulatory frameworks, including the European Union AI Acts. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Associate Professor Alina Bianca Andreica.
It's the other screen. Good morning, and thank you very much for attending this session. It is my honor to be here, and I would like to thank you very much to the Turkish Academy of Science, to its president, Professor Şeker, to Professor Abdülkadir Tajdelen, to all our distinguished guests that I've been able to meet, and I'm very happy that you are attending this session. I come from Babeș-Bolyai University in Cluj, Romania, which is the biggest university in Romania. We have 50,000 students, and it is also the best ranked among Romanian universities, of course. I would like to focus today on the topic that you see here about AI regulations. And I would start with this question. Is this topic relevant? Is it a topic that we should deal with in professional computer science? Is it or is it not? Well, since we see that AI has applications in all fields, and as we could see these days, it is applied in medicine, it is applied in communication, it's applied in education, in business, and so on. Well, I think it is very important that the usage of AI tools are adapted to the standards that we need socially. So, from the ethical point of view, how can we ensure this? We can ensure this by regulations. So, even if it is not an exactly, totally IT topic, I think it is a very relevant topic, and I think that we have to deal with. As we have been able to see, AI and digital technologies in general have applications in various fields, and they have a global impact in different areas. So that's why I propose this interdisciplinary view on AI applications, and in this case, on AI regulations. I would like to focus on I think, the most well-known AI Act, which is the AI Act of the European Union, which has been adopted in August 24, and it has been developed in recent years, since 2019. And I would like to focus as well on regulations in other parts of the world, like the US, Southeastern Asian countries, and Turkey, of course, because we are in Turkey. Because I think it is important as well, I would like to show you some of the digital indicators that I think they are also relevant from a global point of view. And I'll focus a bit on the DESI indicator, which is an EU indicator, which is the Digital Economy and Society Index, and on the UN Digital Compass, which is a global indicator. I would like to focus as well a bit on the way in which we could apply AI in education. I know it's a topic that we have addressed all these days, but it is very important for us as academics to be able to help our students to gain skills that prepare them for the world in which they will have to live and work. So critical thinking, as it has been said here, it is very important. So how can we deal with this, and how is this related to regulations? Because our university, for example, my faculty as well, already have regulations regarding the usage of AI tools. So in the academic field, I think regulations are also important. So since there is quite a lot of content, I'll focus a bit first on this section related to the digital agenda and to the digital indicators, and then I'll focus on the regulations, starting with the EU AI Act, some regulations in the US and in Asia, Southeast Asia as well. The European Union, as you know, has as one of its important priorities the digital field, and in this respect it has developed many policies and as well the digital agenda, the EU digital agenda. And in this respect, digital skills and AI literacy is an important focus, and I like to speak about it because I think it's really important, since how can we deal with the biggest problems in any field? I think with this literacy and training. Because, for example, in the field of cybersecurity, if you don't have skills and knowledge, you cannot act properly. Similarly, in the field of AI, if people have the necessary digital skills and AI skills and knowledge, then they will be able to use these tools in the best way and avoid possible traps, as it was said yesterday, because some of the data it is very important for us to keep private. From professors' yesterday presentation, we have seen that. So I've listed here the most important pillars of the EU digital agenda, and you can notice that they are all interdisciplinary. They are not just related to one field. And the main pillars are these 4 directions, like access, environment, economy, and society. And the second digital agenda was adopted for the period of 2020-2030. Why do I mention just briefly this framework? Because I think it is important to understand that the EU AI Act, which has been discussed in many ways, why do you need it? Do you limit tools with this regulation, or what do you do with it? So it doesn't limit anything. The research is opened. It just ensures that the digital tools are used in respecting human rights and citizens' rights. So I think this is the most important point of the EU AI Act. So there are these 4 pillars as well related to skills, infrastructure, business, and government. And skills are very important because they enable us to use the technology in a good way. So the current interval, the current strategy is up to 2030 from 2020. Which was a time that boomed a bit the digital tools, because it was you remember the pandemic time when everything was performed online. So the Digital Economy and Society Index is an EU indicator which has these 4 pillars: human capital, connectivity, digital technology and digital public services. And just to have an idea of the way in which it is applied, I've selected here some of the most important digital indicators for the EU countries, and as well there is the EU mean here. I don't know exactly, I think it's okay. So there are some indicators related to the infrastructure in the beginning, like internet access, internet use for individuals. I'll try to speak in the microphone although I'm moving. Then digital skills, which are also very important, as I've said, because without proper digital skills, we cannot use the services accordingly and appropriately. Romania doesn't have a very good position, but there are certain indicators in which it has a good position related to the infrastructure, to the potential of digital e-commerce, so digital commerce, and as well on e-invoices and digital skills. Okay, so ICT graduates. Here Romania has a good position, as you can notice, is on the fifth position. Then about SMEs, because the business field is also very important. Social media, at least in Romania, is very popular, and I don't know what your students are doing all the time, but in our classes, some of them are stealing a bit of time on social media. Data analytics for small and medium enterprises, cloud services, AI. The data is for 2024, so AI tools. E-commerce, turnover. Romania has a bit better position here, and in recent years it has improved. E-invoices, again, Romania has a good position, kind of around the average EU mean. AI cloud and data analytics, selling online for SMEs, and a part related to public government, e-government users, digital public services. This is also an indicator within the UN, digital compass, you'll see immediately. Public services for businesses. Okay, and we've arrived to the UN. So the DESI indicator is used inside the EU, and in order to be able to compare countries from everywhere in the world, we can use this UN digital compass, which has 5 pillars: people, connectivity, government, regulation, and economy. And on the site of the UN, they describe the way in which they compute this indicator. And there is a huge table with values computed for all the countries. And I've selected here, so there are some specific sub-indicators, you'll see them immediately. So I've selected, of course, Turkey and Romania. They are kind of close in certain indicators. So in the first 2 lines, there are all the subsection indicators, and then there are the same values, so you can maybe better view them here. Okay, so again, so on the first 2 lines, there are all the indicators, and in the next slide, I've divided them into sections so that they could be better visible. And I've marked the highest indicators above 4, so they are marked in red. And I've also added the indicators of Southeastern Asian countries. I had two reasons. First of all, I had a research on the area, and then I've seen that in this forum we have some representatives from this area, so I've placed them here as well. There are interesting indicators for Indonesia and Malaysia, and I've seen representatives within the conference. And I think it is interesting that so even if they are quoted as middle-income countries, the indicators for people, government, and digital public infrastructure are very good, which means that the policies in the field and the strategies in the field are good in those countries. And I wanted to point this out, because I think that even if, well, certain countries cannot do so well from the economic point of view, the public policies and the strategies which are applied in the countries are very important. So, related to Turkey and Romania, you can notice there that, so the pointer seems it doesn't work exactly on the screen, but you can look on the first two lines. So, for the people indicator, Turkey is around 4.08. Government as well, above 4, a good indicator. The right to privacy, this is also related to the regulations, as you'll be able to see a bit forward. And the digital public infrastructure in Turkey as well has a very, very, very good value, 4.8, with a maximum of 5. So I think this way of comparing the way in which different countries are ranked with these indicators is relevant for comparative studies. Now, the next section of my presentation is related to regulations. I hope I have convinced you that regulations are important. And for example, maybe we cannot say that in a very specific way, but just imagine some cases. For example, if an AI face recognition system was used in a public place and a person was incorrectly identified as a criminal, okay? Then, of course, it's not a very good situation, neither for the person nor for the human rights, okay? So, we all know that AI solutions are not yet 100% exact and correct. So, until they may produce certain errors, biases, and issues, we should take care of the way in which they are used, because otherwise they could lead to discriminations or to infringement of human rights and citizen rights. So even if, well, maybe some of us as computer scientists could say that, well, we are for the development of technology. Yes, we are for the development of technology, but we cannot approve discrimination, biases, or problems related to human and citizen rights. So that's why I think in this field, not only computer scientists should join, but also people from social sciences, from the legal field, because without regulations we cannot define the way in which they are to be applied, even if we would like everybody to be ethical. Yeah. Sometimes you have to have tools of ensuring this. So the EU AI Act is not about limiting anything, and is not about limiting research, because research is open and free, so you can research anything. Just that when you apply and when you deliver as a company certain services to the citizens of the EU, you cannot deliver improper services. That's the point. So the regulation protects the human rights and the rights of the citizens in the EU against misusages, okay, or misusage cases. So I think that is important, because we cannot, as citizens of the world, of the now digital world, we cannot stand by seeing that certain people could be infringed, yeah, or their rights could be could not be respected. Yeah. And unfortunately, this could happen more in the case of certain ethnic minorities and in the cases in which the AI tools and the knowledge bases are not well trained. And we know this very well as computer scientists. So if the knowledge bases are not large enough, are not representative enough, and the training processes are not good and relevant enough, and we have spoken yesterday about training processes, then they could lead to biases. We've seen yesterday, for example, that there are different characteristics in Asia and Brazil, right? So you cannot apply the same databases. And then you have to make sure that all these rights are respected. So the idea and the principles of the EU AI Act is not to limit anything, but to ensure that human rights and citizen rights are respected. So that's why in the case of certain tools which are not error-proof, the regulation doesn't accept just open usage of them. They have to be approved, so the cases have to be studied, and if there are critical situations like terrorism or anything else, they need approval. For example, face recognition. Face recognition is usually okay. Just that for certain ethnic groups or for certain communities, it could happen that it doesn't work exactly right. Why? Because the database and the training is not complete enough. So such cases should be prevented. So the EU AI Act respects the EU values and tries to provide proper services on the digital EU market, both for the companies from the EU, but also for the companies which provide services within the EU. And actually, this was an important economic and political issue as well when the GDPR appeared. And here the EU as well was the first who tried to regulate respecting the rights to privacy. And you know that there were certain service issues with global companies which provided services into the EU. Okay, so high-risk systems mean systems related to life. No? Okay, so as I've said, the science is free, so there is no regulations. The research is free, just that the services which are provided on the market are regulated. And the work on these regulations have started since 2019, and actually they were kind of similar in the US. You'll see that. Focusing on respecting diversity, non-discrimination, and protecting human and citizen rights. Because, for example, in the case of recognizing emotions as well, the AI systems are not 100% proof, okay? Especially in certain ethnic groups or communities. So that's why, as well, together with face recognition in public places, they have to be, face recognition in public places has to be approved. You know, it cannot be freely applied. And there were cases in the US, for example, when somebody got into prison because it was incorrectly recognized, and it was a misrecognition, actually. So biometric categorization systems are not 100% proof, and as well, human and personal rights and the right to privacy have to be respected. As well, for example, in the case of certain algorithms which could lead to biases. There were also cases in the field of the algorithms which approved credits. You know, so biases and potential discrimination are not to be accepted. Biometric identification should be authorized by the state's members as well. And of course, the databases have to be properly trained. And sometimes we could think that, well, we have to accept it freely and to be opened. Yes, but these databases should be well trained, because otherwise it's not really fair. It could not be fair. I've listed here some AI fields, and as well addressing issues related to religion, gender, beliefs, and so on, which have to be free. So such cases of infringement are not accepted. In the case of the US, I've listed here comparative for the case of the US. I've listed here comparatively some regulations which have been developed since 2016. So I've marked here some stages in 2018, 19, and 22. So in up to 2022, there were these 5 pillars or directions regarding protection of safety, prevention of discrimination, privacy, and so on. Okay, thank you. So just briefly regarding the character, but there was something important.
there was a change in these regulations.
as you may know, when President Trump came in January 2025, because he thought that the field of AI should be dealt more freely in order to bring advantages. So the protection regulations, specific ones, were not kept anymore, but the main amendments, like the First Amendment, the Constitution, the acts of the Federal Trade Commission, and child protection are of course in place. There are some regulations here regarding China. There is not a global one, but there are specific regulations for different services. I've listed as well some countries from Southeast Asia, where the most common approach is a voluntary approach, and I've listed here the cases of Singapore, Japan, Australia, and South Korea. We have our professor here, Australia as well, and Japan. It's as well a voluntary approach which is applied. And for the case of Turkey, there is a law which is discussed since 2024. It is not adopted yet, but there is a global strategy and a national AI plan included into this strategy, and the regulation is kind of similar to the EU one, but it has not yet been adopted. I've also have a section here related to AI tools in education, and I'll just give two ideas. I think it is useful when we apply it in teams, because then students can discuss with each other better and apply their critical thinking directly. And I would also recommend that in the first stage, students would try to handle the problem from their own perspective, and then try to see how the AI tools may help them in this analysis. And then, in the end, put it all together and see how the AI tools have helped them. Of course, with teacher guidance. And as I've said, we have a regulation in our university. We were obliged to adopt the regulation because we started to have dissertation papers which kind of pasted from generative AI. So in our case, we accept AI tools for processing, for language processing, for analysis, as a tool for comparisons and so on, but not for copy pasting. So it's not accepted as for that. So just briefly overviewing, I've spoken about the EU digital agenda and the indicators in the EU and the UN, the importance of AI literacy, and the importance of ethical usage of AI and the way in which it can be applied by means of regulations, because that's it. And in this respect, I think it's very important to have an interdisciplinary approach. Now AI is not AI for AI, but it's AI for people and for different fields, and it has impact in all fields, so it has to be dealt with as well interdisciplinary. So thank you very much, and questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Andrejka, for your valuable presentation. We now continue with our second keynote lecture. It's our pleasure to welcome Professor Alvin V. Kulaba from the Philippines. Professor Alvin V. Kulaba is the Vice President of the National Academy of Science and Technology of the Republic of the Philippines and Commissioner on Science and Technology at the UNESCO National Commission of Philippines. He is internationally recognized for his work in sustainable energy systems, renewable energy policy, climate resilience, and AI-supported smart energy infrastructures. Professor Kulaba has played an active role in shaping national energy transformation policies in the Philippines and is listed among the world's most influential scientists according to Stanford Elsevier rankings. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Alvin V. Kulaba.
Okay, I can still be seen. Anyway, this was really unexpected, no? So I'm happy to be here in Turkey, started in Istanbul, now I'm here in Ankara. Yes, indeed, my time here has been very productive, and it is my pleasure to accept the invitation. I'm really honored, to receive the invitation from Professor Zekâ, the president of the Tüba, and of course, Professor Nuri of Aassa. Of course, this was facilitated by my good friend, Professor Ibrahim Dinser. Looking up the program, I'll stick to about 20 minutes, So I decided to instead, give a message from the perspective of the Philippines, or more in general note about developing nations. My view on AI in higher education, I'm already over close to 40 years in higher education. And of course, I'm also a scientist and I'm a mechanical engineer. And now serving in certain capacities, with the government. So National Academy of Science Technology Philippines is the highest scientific body that is actually serving as the advisor to the president of the country, or the president of the Philippines, its Congress, and the executive branch. So on behalf of the National Academy of Science and Technology Philippines, allow me again to express my sincere appreciation to the Turkish Academy of Sciences, or Tüba, the Association of Academies and Societies of Sciences in Asia, or Aassa, and all partner institutions for organizing this highly relevant international conference on artificial intelligence in higher education. In the last 2 days, I have seen a number of studies already presented. That's why I decided, to present a bigger perspective of how nations like the Philippines approach artificial intelligence, primarily in the higher education sector. It is a great honor to join you here, esteemed members of the academies of different countries represented here, of course, educators and policymakers. Today, I would like to, again, share the experience and perspective of how artificial intelligence and energy transitions can work together as catalysts for inclusive and sustainable development. We are now entering the final stretch toward the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. Across the world, nations face a convergence of crises, and these are real not only to the world, but to the Philippines. Climate change. Philippines is one of the most vulnerable countries to the impacts of climate change. Energy insecurity. We are 100% dependent on imported fuel. So the recent geopolitical issues, in the Middle East has significantly affected our economy, rising the price of our fuel from a mere, 0.75 cent to almost $2 per liter of fuel. Widening inequality. Any approach to higher education has something to do with poverty alleviation and inequality. So we have seen after the post-pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic, that there was a lot of disruptions in education. And that was probably prepared us to this current changes in our higher education landscape. And finally, the rapid technological transformation. At the same time, we are witnessing unprecedented opportunities. Artificial intelligence is no longer merely a technological tool. I started working on knowledge-based systems, genetic algorithms, fuzzy logic, and neural network when I was doing my PhD back in the mid-1990s. We're not talking of AI then, but now we have seen how it emerged, and how AI is disrupting practically anything at the moment. It is rapidly becoming a foundational infrastructure for governance, education, healthcare, industry, and energy systems. Likewise, the global transition toward renewable and sustainable energy systems is no longer optional. It is imperative. The question before us is not whether AI will transform society. The real question is, will this transformation be inclusive, ethical, sustainable, and human-centered? For developing countries like the Philippines, these questions carry even greater urgency. The Philippines is an archipelagic country composed of over 6,700 islands. Our geography creates both opportunities and vulnerabilities. On one hand, we possess enormous renewable energy potential, for example, solar, wind, hydro, geothermal, biomass. On the other hand, we remain highly vulnerable to typhoons. We experienced in 2013, on the 8th of November, the strongest typhoon ever recorded in the history, and it devastated the central part of the Philippines. In fact, I live in the ground zero, and I was born there, Tacloban City. And maybe take this opportunity to thank everyone who has extended help during that time. So our vulnerability to impacts of climate change has reached sea level rise. Flooding occurs not only in my country, but elsewhere in the world. And of course, other climate-induced disasters. Energy demand in my country is projected to increase significantly in the coming decades, while many remote communities still experience unreliable electricity access. Historically, our energy system has relied heavily on imported fossil fuels, making energy prices like the recent one vulnerable to geopolitical and economic disruptions. Thus, the challenge for the Philippines is twofold. One, achieve energy security and economic growth. And second, ensure environmental sustainability and climate resilience. This is where artificial intelligence can become transformative. Artificial intelligence offers unprecedented capabilities for optimizing energy systems. I've been using AI in my recent works. Optimization of modeling biorefinery systems and other renewable energy systems. In my country, AI applications are increasingly being explored in predictive energy demand forecasting, renewable energy optimization, smart grid management, disaster resilience systems, and decentralized energy planning. For example, AI-driven predictive analytics can significantly improve solar plus storage systems by forecasting weather patterns, electricity demand, and storage requirements in real time. In smart grids, AI can help balance supply and demand dynamically, reducing transmission losses and improving grid resilience during extreme weather events. In remote island communities, AI-enabled microgrids may provide decentralized and self-healing energy systems that are adaptive, resilient, and community-centered. This transformation is especially important for countries like the Philippines, where energy infrastructure must operate across dispersed and climate-vulnerable regions. Traditionally, energy systems operated in a centralized and linear manner, but the future of energy could be decentralized, digitized, democratized, and decarbonized. AI enables this transformation. Imagine an intelligent energy ecosystem where households produce renewable electricity. We have that program. I'm part of that program, renewable energy, the net metering, and all this stuff. Electric vehicles, it is increasing in numbers. They could interact with the grid using AI. AI predicts peak demand. Batteries autonomously optimize storage, and communities recover rapidly after disasters through self-healing systems. This is the direction toward which many nations are now moving. For the Philippines, the vision is to leapfrog traditional developmental pathways by integrating renewable energy systems with intelligent digital infrastructure. However, technology alone is insufficient. The true success of AI and energy transitions depends on people. This is why higher education institutions play a critical role. Universities are not merely centers for instruction, they are now innovation ecosystems, talent incubators, policy laboratories, and catalysts for societal transformation. The conference itself recognizes its vital role of higher education in shaping AI ecosystems. In the Philippines, there is increasing recognition that universities must move from fragmented sustainability initiatives toward integrated institutional transformation. The Department or the Ministry of Science and Technology, Science, Technology, and Innovation for Sustainable Development Goals framework emphasizes 4 major pillars. 1, curriculum and student development. 2nd, research and innovation. 3rd, campus operations and community engagement. And 4, governance and partnerships. This whole of institution approach embeds sustainability into the very DNA of higher education institutions. AI education must therefore go beyond technical proficiency. We must develop graduates who understand ethics, sustainability, systems thinking, social equity, and environmental stewardship. One of the greatest challenges globally is the growing gap between the technological advancement and human capability. In many developing countries, the challenge is not only infrastructure, but talent development. The Philippines has therefore begun strengthening initiatives in AI education. There are now degree programs in higher education institutions that is focusing on AI. Inter- and transdisciplinary research, digital literacy, and sustainability-oriented innovation. Programs such as our Education Center for AI Research aim to bridge the talent gap and prepare future scientists, engineers, educators, and policymakers for an AI-enabled society. But we must ensure that AI education remains human-centered. How do we protect human dignity? How do we avoid widening inequality? How do we ensure ethical AI governance? How do we preserve cultural diversity and local knowledge systems? Technology must remain a servant of humanity, not its master. For climate-vulnerable countries like the Philippines, AI also offers opportunities in resilience and disaster preparedness. AI-enabled geospatial systems can improve flood prediction. Flood is very common in my country, all over the country. Disaster risk mapping, evaluation or evacuation planning, agricultural resilience, and emergency response systems. By integrating AI with climate science, renewable energy, and local governance, we can strengthen community resilience while advancing sustainable development goals. In this sense, AI is not simply a digital technology. It becomes a resilience technology. Despite these opportunities, we must acknowledge the serious challenges ahead. These include digital divide. This is apparent in countries like us. Unequal access to computing infrastructure. Most of the advanced countries, more in the major cities, but in rural communities and far-flung communities, they are not connected to computer systems. Fragmented policy frameworks, data governance concerns, cybersecurity risks, ethical issues surrounding AI, and the shortage of AI-ready faculty and researchers. For many developing nations, another major challenge is the granularity and availability of reliable data. Without high-quality data, AI systems may reinforce inequality rather than reduce it. Thus, governance frameworks are essential. AI development must be guided by 1, transparency, 2, accountability, 3, inclusivity, and 4, international cooperation. No country can address these challenges alone. This is why gatherings such as this, conference or symposium, are extremely important. Science diplomacy, academic collaboration, and shared innovation ecosystems will determine whether AI becomes a force for collective progress or fragmented inequality. Asia has enormous potential to lead in this transformation. Our region possesses a young population, rapidly expanding digital ecosystems, strong scientific communities, and increasing investments in various infrastructure in digital technology. Through collaboration among academies of sciences, universities, governments, and industries, we can build a more sustainable and inclusive future. The Philippine vision is clear: a data-driven economy, intelligent and resilient energy systems, sustainable cities, empowered communities, and inclusive innovation ecosystems. But more importantly, we envision development that remains anchored in humanity. Artificial intelligence must not merely accelerate economic productivity. It must enhance human well-being. Energy transitions, for example, must not only decarbonize economies, they must uplift communities and reduce inequality. Science, technology, and innovation must ultimately serve people and the planet. Every great technological revolution in history has reshaped civilization. But what defines civilizations is not merely the technologies they create, it is the values with which they use them. Today, we stand at the intersection of artificial intelligence, sustainability, and human destiny. The decisions we make in this decade will shape not only our economies and institutions, but the future of humanity itself. May we therefore ensure that our pursuit of AI and energy transitions, for that matter, remains guided by wisdom, ethics, sustainability, and compassion. Let us work together, not as a separate nations, but one global community of scientists committed to shaping a better future for all. Once again, thank you and good day, and thank you to Tüba and Aassa for this opportunity.
Thank you, Professor Kobe, for your valuable contribution. Distinguished participants, we will now have a short coffee break. The program will continue after 15 minutes later with session 4.